All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another Batting 1,000, where we interview the heavy hitters in the mortgage and real estate industry. And today I've got just an exceptional guest. You are going to love today's conversation. We have Owen Lee with us today. You probably know who Owen is. If you don't, let me give you his credentials, because if you've got internet and you're on social media, you've seen Owen, I guarantee it. Owen is the CEO and co-owner of Success Mortgage Partners. I am honored and proud to say he is a longtime friend and partner. I've had the great privilege to work with his team and his employees and him for many, many years. He founded SMP back in 2002, but you may know him better as the vice chairman of the board of directors for the Mortgage Bankers Association, where he is serving right now. He is going to be the chair coming up here in the next year or so. He was the past chair of the IMB Council. He was the past chair of the MBA committee. So he's done a lot of work for this industry in legislation, in raising funds to help move the industry forward. Just an incredibly proactive person in the market, and really a great friend to the industry. He also is a board member on several other things. And the thing I get most excited about is he is on the board for Captain Sweeney, which is a not-for-profit that he works with. It's the nation's largest camp for kids with type 1 diabetes, a great cause, and he does a lot of great work there. He's got his JD cum laude from Michigan State, so he's well-educated, and he's now an author. He is authoring a book titled Powerful Partnerships. It comes out in September. Owen, it is so great to be with you, my dear friend. Thanks for joining Batting 1,000.
Oh my gosh, I'm very excited to be here, Dale. Anything that I can do to get more time with Dale Vermillion is a great thing as far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate that. So, there's so much to talk about. I've been so excited about this interview for months and months and months and months. There's so many things happening on the legislative front. But let's start with the book first. I want to start with that because that's your new baby, and that's the new thing you got going on. Talk to us about Powerful Partnerships, who it's for, what it's built around, and let us know kind of when it's launching so people can get copies of that, because you won't want to miss that.
Sure, I appreciate it. I've been thinking a lot lately. I've been in the industry now close to 30 years.
Wow.
And, when you do that and you build a company, really two companies, because we have a title insurance agency also, you start to get lessons. And one of the things that has greatly benefited me is associations with people who have a lot of experience, who are very willing and able teachers, and different things and lessons that I can glean from them. And, whether it be, our decade plus relationship with you, Dale, or, some other people that we work with. And I've been blessed to work with my dad successfully, since I was in my late 20s. And you just really get a lot of lessons. You got to get a lot of life lessons. And part of my time with the Mortgage Bankers Association, and then I donate there, is really about giving back to the industry that's been so good to me. And the number one lesson that I could try and help other people is really about how to analyze their partnerships. Who are they working with? Their teammates on their team, their boss, their subordinates, their branch manager, their company, their associations. Partnerships are a two-way street, and they should elevate both members of the partnership. And if you're not in a partnership that elevates both people, you really need to analyze that to see. I go through this exercise all the time with my association with the Mortgage Bankers Association. I've donated hundreds of hours. They've never given me a paycheck, not one penny. But when I look at some of the things that they've accomplished for the industry, I look at some of the ways that has helped our company, Success Mortgage Partners, some of the ways it's helped similarly situated companies, other members of the industry. I think, okay, this is a powerful partnership. I need to pour more into this partnership. That's how I feel when I analyze our relationships with our loan officers and with our branches and with other companies. Are we bringing the same amount of weight to the relationship as we are taking from the relationship? If that's out of balance, that's not going to work.
Yep.
If you have partnerships that are out of balance with a person that's above you on the org chart, with a person that's below you on the org chart, with the place from which you and your family pick up a paycheck every single week, with the associations to which you belong, you're not going to be able to maximize your economic opportunity for the hours that we spend in this industry.
I love that.
I've been fortunate enough to learn that from some pretty smart people, present company included.
I appreciate that. I love how you talk about the give and take piece of it. And, look, I know you're qualified to speak about that. You and Heather have been married a long, long time. Your mom and dad have been married, what, like 70 years? 65 years?
66 years.
66 years.
Yeah.
You've seen what a partnership looks like firsthand. Your dad, Vince, and your mom, Chris, are some of the most amazing people. They're heroes. They're my heroes. I just absolutely love them, as you well know.
I'm very fortunate in that regard, for sure.
Yeah, really great. So
Yeah.
I love how you spoke when we talked offline before this. You'd mentioned to me that the book is going to be geared towards partnerships at all levels. So it's for originators, it's for leaders, it's for mid-level managers, it's for executives. It really is a book that's going to appeal to everybody. You need to go out and buy a copy of that as soon as that becomes available, because I can promise you, from knowing Owen for decades, that this is going to make a difference in your business, in your life, because he really shares a lot of principles. Now let's talk for a minute on that, kind of on that mindset. Before we get into the MBA and some of the legislative things that are happening, I know everybody wants to hear about. Let's talk about your role as a leader of a mortgage company. I mean, your company has over 600 employees. You guys do billions of dollars per year in business, very successful organization for many, 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 many years. Talk about what you see as some of the key principles of leadership that you feel have helped you guys to get where you're at and stay where you're at as a force within the mortgage arena.
Sure. Well, I think the number one thing is you have to tell the truth always. I have a sign in my office that says the truth is not always popular, but it is always right.
Yep.
And I think you have to lead with the truth, and you have to care enough about the relationship that you're in, about the partnership that you're in, to be honest about what's working, what's not working, and what your ideas to improve that relationship are. One of the most valuable lessons that my dad taught me, he got into, as we record this, my dad just celebrated his 90th birthday 2 months ago.
Wow.
And, he has not spent his life in the mortgage industry. And from a pure mortgage person, he's not the most experienced, he's not the most talented, he's not the most anything. But he knows a lot about relationships. And one of the things that he taught me at a very young age is that your friends and people that care about you tell you what you need to know. People that don't care about you, they tell you what you want to hear, because it's way easier to tell somebody what they want to hear than it is to tell somebody what they need to know. And so sometimes as a leader, that means that you have to tell a person or a group or a team or a department or what have you, something that's not popular, something that they're not going to want to hear. Or maybe you have to admit where you made a mistake or where the company was wrong, and put that on the table so the partnership can move past it. But it's telling the truth even when it's hard, or especially when it's hard. Yeah. That's really what keeps partnerships strong. So if I had one aspect to share about that, it would be you got to be truthful in all things, because if you're not, then it's impossible to have a powerful partnership.
So help the audience understand, because this is such an important topic for leaders to understand, because I see so much apprehension. I see so much passive behavior with leaders today where they're afraid to say something that might offend somebody or might upset somebody, when in fact, you and I both know as longtime leaders, if they're doing something incorrectly, if they're missing an opportunity to succeed, it is behooving of us as leaders to instruct them, to guide them, to coach them, to nurture them, to encourage them through that process and tell them the truth. Be honest with them. Tell us how you've tackled that over the years with, so many employees that you've worked with. Because the one thing I love about Success Mortgage Partners in the many years we worked together, you guys have such a great connection with your employees. A really great family first, family forward kind of mindset. You guys have deep relationships with all of your employees. I've seen you get on planes, fly to people who, were having difficulties at the drop of a hat, something I don't see many CEOs do around the country. You've been very unique in that, and so is your whole team. Tell me the importance of being able to speak into people's lives, and how do you do that effectively so that they're not offended or upset by that in the process?
Right. Well, I think the number one thing that you have to do is you have to set an expectation for somebody in what their part of the partnership is.
Great.
So we have service level agreements for absolutely every member and department of our company. If you're a processor, how long does it take for you to submit that file to underwriting?
Yep.
If you're an underwriter, what's our turnaround time? If you work in the post-closing department, loan officers and their pricing structure know what bogeys they have to hit in order to meet their financial level of that agreement. And as a company, we put out reports on how we're doing on all these service level things. We publish a daily lineup every single day that tells everybody where we're meeting metrics, where we might not be meeting metrics.
Yep.
So I think you have to have that honesty in all things, and you have to be willing to talk about it. One of the other things I try and do as it relates to talking about it is I always try and figure what are my 2 or 3 most important tasks or most difficult tasks that I have to do every day. And I try and do those things right in the morning. Before I get lost in my email or, have a relationship call with somebody or do something easy, I try and do the hard things first. That way they never get put off or they never get missed, or at least rarely get put off or rarely get missed. So, I think those are the things. When you sit down and you tell somebody, hey, if you come to work at Success Mortgage Partners, my expectation is that you're going to do A, B, and C. And your expectation is that Success Mortgage Partners should always do for you X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
If somebody's not doing A, B, and C, we tap them on the shoulder and we talk about it.
Yep.
And if they feel that Success Mortgage Partners is not doing X, Y, and Z, we want them to tap us collectively on the shoulder so that we can talk about it. Because whatever relationship we're in, that relationship, that partnership will never reach the height that it could reach if both parties aren't on the same page doing what they're supposed to do in that relationship. So I think it's a sign of strength to have a conversation if it's not working, because if you have a relationship that's not working and you let it fester, it's robbing a resource from somebody else in the company that deserves better. So you're not doing anybody a favor by letting something fester. I mean, Dale, you are the godfather inside of our company of management by metrics. I'll never forget when you came to our second sales conference we had ever in Dallas, Texas, and laid this out for salespeople and laid this out for and it's just it's like a 9.0 version of that.
Yep, love that.
Yeah.
And for those of you who caught it, that was not just good business advice. That was good relational advice right there. You know, if you want your marriage to last, if you want your relationships to last, set expectations that are absolutely clear. All great relationships that last do that. They understand each other's roles and each other's responsibilities and the relationship between the two and how those two work for each other and with each other to create the greatest outcome at the end of the day. Just great
Yeah,
advice.
there could
on
be some
leadership.
life advice in there too. I've.
That's right. No question about it. So let's talk for a little bit about one of the things that I've always been very impressed with in you as a CEO is that you have a very keen sense of the tech side of the industry today and how to balance between technology and relationship. I say it all the time. We got to be high tech, high touch in order to be successful and effective in today's marketplace. You guys have done a great job of that at SMP. Talk a little bit about both from an MBA board of director, seeing it on a macro scale in the industry, and a CEO of a large company. Where do you see the crossover, the cross section, the utilization of having the right mix between tech and relationship and service in this marketplace today? Because I think that's the balancing act that every lender has to go through if they're going to succeed. They need to understand that first and foremost. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I can answer that question as long as we have about 2 hours for the rest of this podcast. So, wow, what a great question. Okay, so a couple of things, just for frame of reference, for those of you listening. Success Mortgage Partners operates mostly in the distributed retail area of the business. So our loan officers get up, drink a cup of coffee, go out every day and do what they can to try and find a loan today. They talk to realtors, they talk to divorce lawyers, they talk to accountants, they talk to financial planners, insurance agents, all those kinds of traditional sources of business. So technology is going to change all parts of our industry. It's going to change how we find loans. It's going to change how we underwrite loans. It's going to change how we price loans. It's going to change how we sell loans. It's going to change every aspect of our industry. Also, what we have to understand is that the technology is moving way faster than regulation, right? So you're going to be able to have AI, artificial intelligence, originate a loan, communicate with a borrower far earlier than the regulations will probably allow it, right? Because if we have 50 state capitals and we have 50 licensing laws, right? I don't think in Columbus, Ohio, Columbus is the state capital of Ohio, there's a lot of state legislatures that are going to stand up and say, you know what? We should pass a law abolishing loan officer licensing so the human beings don't have to be involved in the mortgage process. But the question is, how is that going to change what we do, right? How is it going to? Rocket bought Redfin. It closed about 60 days ago. If you think they spent the billions that they spent to buy Redfin and it's not going to alter how they originate a loan, you're crazy, right? We need to be a student of that. That was a very smart move that they made, right? It gets them in front of borrowers earlier in the process. So how does a distributed retail, face-to-face, belly-to-belly, handshake, shoe leather company like ours compete with that? Well, the great news is there are tools available to help us also identify and get in front of potential borrowers sooner. We can use our own databases. We have to do it smartly. We have to do it in a regulatory compliant way. We've been preparing for this for 3 years inside of Success Mortgage Partners. And by the way, if you just go back to the book for a second, Powerful Partnerships, right? My need to go out and learn about, purchase, and infuse technology in the relationships of our loan officers is a duty that I have if I'm going to be doing my part in that partnership. So if there are dozens, hundreds of companies that are doing this well, right? I'd like to think that our company is one of them. If you're at a company that's not doing that, that's the kind of thing you have to think about with the partnerships.
Yep.
But when you get back to this thing about technology, so how do I use it to get myself in front of more borrowers faster? One of the things a very dear friend of mine, Carl White, who's coached a lot of loan officers, much like you have over
Yep.
the years, has this kind of elevator pitch where he says, you want to write more loans? Figure out how to make more offers. If you make more offers, you'll write more loans, right? Well, technology can help us get in front of more people and make more offers, right? If we use it on the back end, same thing, right? How am I underwriting loans? Now, there is a lot of regulation around using technology and underwriting loans. The technology is moving way faster than the regulations. So let's just put that aside for a second. But how do I deliver loans? How do I eliminate stare and compare, right? How do I get all the digits from the driver's license and double check that with every document that's in the loan file? How do I automatically reconcile a purchase advice and make sure everything is on the purchase advice? How do you take the homeowner's deck page? How do you all of these things, hundreds of little things. I laugh. We've been paperless for 15 years. What does that really mean? It just means how soon do you scan the document in, right? You scan the document on paper. So, it's looking at all these areas, learning about all these areas, making smart investments, having a powerful partnership with all of your tech vendors. I tell every single one of the tech vendors that we work with, good technology should either make something faster or reduce the cost.
Yep.
Great technology should do both of those things.
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
And so if I'm writing a check every single month to a vendor for $50,000, I want to make sure that, I'm getting something faster, or I'm getting it less expensive, or both. And I tell them all, I'm just like a regular investor. I'm very simple, right?
Yep.
I want a return on my investment, and I want a return of my investment. And the check I'm writing to you, Mr. or Mrs. Tech Vendor, that's an investment from my point of view. So you have to be honest with your vendors about that. It's just another angle of the partnership concept.
So let me wrap that thought up with this statement that I think you'll agree with, but I want to get your feedback on it. In today's marketplace, you better embrace the technology, and you need to understand that technology can improve your data, your efficiencies, your marketing. These are three key areas that are absolutely huge areas that make a difference, as well as the process and underwriting side, and be able to do things in a way that is not only compliant, but helps you. But would you also agree that the relationship piece is still absolutely critical? Because here's the problem that I see in the industry. I'm sure you see the same thing, because I coach this all the time and train this all the time. You can't let the technology do everything. It's still a business where we are dealing with home ownership, the single largest financial decision and most personal financial decision people ever make. Therefore, you still need the relationships with your borrowers. You still need the relationship with your vendors. You still need a relationship with your partners in the referral side. Those are still critical. What you can't do is confuse yourself to think tech's going to do it all. That's a common mistake that I see. You've got to be able to balance the two between where does the tech make the play to help me become more efficient, to market better, to get on that front end faster, and to be able to make sure that I'm doing it well on the back end. And then the relationship of how do I really build that loyalty and trust with that borrower in a way they're not going to ghost us and shop us all the time. Is that something you would agree with?
100%. I mean, if you really think about it, right? Technology is great for a lot of things. I have yet to see the artificial intelligence, Chat GPT, Gronk, whatever, right? Whatever you use. I don't even know if I pronounced that. That's how much of a dinosaur I am. But I have not yet seen the artificial intelligence where you can type in, a question and you get back trust.
Right.
That's not trust is a human conception,
That's right.
right? And relationships are a human conception, and partnerships are a human conception.
Yep.
So you have to have that connection. You look at like the Rocket Redfin that I just think, right? They're
Yep.
still going to introduce a human being into that mortgage process. Number one, because they have to from a regulatory point of view. Number two,
Right.
because they know it's also a smart business move,
That's correct.
right? And it's the same thing. You should look at tech as a way to force multiply your time and reach. But there is no substitute for you in the process,
I love
right?
that.
And so that's something that we could talk about for a very long time. I think of it when I talk on this topic, I think of this as a traffic light, right? You got a red light, you got a yellow light, you got a green light. And that's what technology is going to do to the industry. Think red, yellow, and green, right? The
Okay.
red light people are going to go away. They're
Yep.
not going to adopt technology. It's going to make it impossible for them to earn a profit in this industry. Other people
Yep.
are going to have lower costs, lower fees, better execution, faster execution, more offers, more applications, more of everything, right? The green light people are going to adopt technology. They're going to use it to force multiply their time, their productivity, their reach, their offers, everything, right? And the people in the yellow are people that are very hardworking, very diligent, but they don't pick their head up out of the sand to see what's coming. And those people are still going to be able to hang on for a while, right? But business is not going to be fun for them. They're going to work 30% harder to earn 30% less money. And then sooner or later, the yellow people will disappear and they'll either go into the red camp or the green camp. And I think it's going to change the face of the industry over the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I
And
loved your
maybe
quote
2 to
earlier.
4. I don't know.
Yep. I loved your quote earlier when you said it's the technology is the force multiplier for the business, but they still need you. That's absolutely true, and I love that. All right.
Yeah, there's no replacement for the general public. Look at our company is about 80% purchase money mortgage. About half that is first time home buyer,
Yep.
right? Our first time home buyers, only a drastically small, even if it were legal, which it's not, even if it were legal to go through the whole process without a loan officer, I don't think 2% of them could make it through that process with just some kind of, chat box, bottom right hand corner of your computer screen asking questions and answers.
Agreed. All right, so let's transition. Let's talk about the MBA. There has been so many incredible things that you've been working on, making great strides in for the industry. We've had a lot of wins on the legislative front, and there's a lot of things still on the horizon that I know you are deeply involved in. Love to talk about that. Super excited about you being the chair of the MBA coming up, and all the
Yep.
work you're doing right now. I think I've figured out. Owen, you may be the busiest guy in the industry. You are traveling more than I used to when I was doing it like crazy. So tell us what you're seeing. Talk about some of the wins. Talk about some of the issues that you think are critically important for people to be up to date and aware of in today's regulatory environment, and the things the MBA is doing to push those forward and help the industry to escalate.
Well, thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to talk about this, because this is something I obviously feel passionate about. Just to explain for the people that are listening, so I'm the current vice chair of the MBA. In MBA speak, in that stratosphere, that means I'm the number 3 person on the ladder. In 2026, I will be the chair-elect, and in 2027, I will be the chair. Assuming the voters don't vote me out and they like what I'm doing. But the MBA is on a tremendous winning streak. Anybody who's listening right now, I mean, God's honest truth. If you're not an MBA member, pick up the phone, get on the internet, look into it, write the check, join, because we are doing things that are directly benefiting you. Let me give you a couple examples. Trigger leads, right? And I can't talk about trigger leads without mentioning my dear, dear friend, Chrissy Ray, who passed away about 10 months ago, was chair of RESBOG, the Residential Board of Governors within the MBA, when they first conceived and voted on the idea of introducing legislation in Congress to ban trigger leads. Everyone thought it was a joke at the time. Everybody thought, we'll never beat the credit bureaus. We're pushing a giant boulder up the iciest cliff ever, and we're wearing hockey skates. Like, we're just going to get bowled over, right? That didn't happen. We got introduced. We got some members on our side. We stormed the Hill. We told our story. We had dozens and dozens of meetings. We had 2 national advocacy conferences in a row. We had a combined 900 people come to Washington, D.C., had 555 meetings on Capitol Hill, and we slowly got the people on our side. We told our story. The average member of Congress had no flippin' clue what a trigger lead was on the day we introduced this legislation. And the credit bureaus fought us hard, and they won temporarily in December of 2024. We thought we were going to get it across the finish line as part of the Defense Authorization Act. Patrick McHenry, who was a member of Congress, who was chair of the House Financial Services Committee at the time, blocked us. That Congress ended. We got a new Congress. He retired. We got a new chair, French Hill, who is a co-sponsor of the trigger leads legislation. We got it passed by the House and the Senate. Tremendous, tremendous victory. The president hasn't signed it yet, as we're recording this podcast right now, but that will come in a matter of days or weeks. You take a look at VA partial claims, okay? VA partial claims, there was I'm going to call it a construct. There was a hole inside the VA servicing manual as it relates to what you could offer a veteran in terms of mediation or remediation of their mortgage or recast of their mortgage, okay? Where veterans were actually disadvantaged in that process versus the regular FHA borrower, the regular Fannie borrower, the Freddie borrower. Well, who wants our veterans to be disadvantaged, right? The MBA went to work and closed this hole. Every servicer of VA mortgages in the nation owes a debt of gratitude to the MBA for getting this across the finish line. Big, beautiful bill. Big, beautiful bill is tremendous for the housing industry. Permanent deductibility of mortgage insurance. Okay? Increase in the amount that you can deduct your mortgage from $500,000 to $700,000. Continued capital gains treatment for mortgage servicing rights. I could list 10 more things. There are, as of the recording of this podcast, I'll just give you one stat. 36 bills since January 20th and Trump took office have passed both the House and Senate.
Wow.
Only 3 of those bills, almost 10% of those bills, have the MBA fingerprints all over it. Trigger leads and VA partial claims are exclusive constructs of the MBA.
It's awesome.
And our fingerprints, as well as the fingerprints of many other organizations, are all over the big, beautiful bill. And so it really is something I feel passionate about. One thing I think we don't do well at the MBA is tell our story to the mortgage public. And so many of the things that we do is prevent bad proposals from becoming bad regulation and bad business practice. And that's not sexy, right? Trigger leads are sexy, well, in a bizarre kind of sexy way, right? If you find trigger leads or banning them sexy, but a lot of the work that we do, and if you think about what's coming, GSE reform, are you kidding me? There's an administrative path and a legislative path. We don't know which one it's going to take. This is the most consequential and monumental happening in the mortgage business, I would argue, since Fannie and Freddie got put into conservatorship.
Wow.
Okay, that's
Yep.
coming. What about credit bureaus and the case to be made for a single bureau pull to be able to do a residential mortgage, and what costs might be, how that might change the cost structure of the industry with everything that's gone on there in
Yep.
the past 3 years. LO Comp, the CFPB, we're about to get anticipated notice of rule change on LO Comp. One of the things that they're proposing is, and I'll just give you this should scare the crap out of everybody,
Okay.
right? They're gonna, there was a printing in the Office of Management and Budget. One of the things that the CFPB is gonna ask the industry about is the elimination of the LO Comp rule, okay? Now, before champagne corks go off, and before everybody, cues up "Happy Days Are Here Again," right? That old song from the
Yeah.
1930s or whatever it was. They don't mean pre-regulation. They mean pre-CFPB regulation, which would take it back to the written rule of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act. The
Wow.
Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act will not allow a loan officer to get paid on a loan where the borrower pays points and fees.
Yep.
That would be
That's,
catastrophic for
yep.
our industry and catastrophic for every loan officer that's listening,
Yep.
right? So, my goodness, industry, let's band together. Join the MBA. Everybody should be a member of the Mortgage Action Alliance so you can get these
Yep.
alerts. We're on a tremendous winning streak in that organization. And, you probably can't tell I don't feel passionately about it at all. But it's, we are delivering for the industry in a way that hasn't been seen in a while. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited to play a very, very small role in it. And I just think it's something that we got to tell people about it, right? You got to be involved. We've won some big fights, and we got some huge fights coming, right?
Yeah, well, thank you for your persistence as being part of that. I know you're just one of many that's doing that, but still appreciate greatly your involvement and your intensity and your motivation and your excitement and persistence in that. And I had Barry Habib on my last Batting 1,000. He just got added to the board of directors for Fannie Freddie.
I saw
We're
that.
getting,
I saw
we're getting
that.
all the
Yeah.
good, all the good guys are getting in the right spots, which gets me excited about the industry and the future, what we're going to see, because when you got good people at the helm, good things happen. That's just the way it is. And we're really grateful for all the work that you've done. Tell the audience where you mentioned being part of the Mortgage Action Alliance, signing up for the MBA. Absolutely. Everybody should do that. What else can people be doing to follow what you are doing? I know you're all over social media with constant updates on what's happening. I see them all the time. But what else can people be doing to be plugged in and supporting what you guys are trying to do?
Well, I think the biggest thing you had mentioned is the Mortgage Action Alliance. That is a service 100% free. You can join if your company's an MBA member. You can join if your company's not an MBA member. And it's 100% free. And what it is it's a system where they will take your information, figure out, obviously what state you're in, what congressional district you're in inside that state. So everybody would have 3 representatives in Washington. We all have 2 senators, and we have 1 congressperson based upon where we live, right?
Great.
So when there's a vote coming up or there's an issue coming up, they will let people know and know what the preferred response is. You have 3 choices at that time. You can participate in the preferred response, you can not participate in the preferred response, or you can alter the preferred response to reflect what your exact views are. And it's very, very easy. And if anybody out here listening to this podcast doesn't think that the voice from home still matters in Washington, D.C., it does.
It does. Yep.
And it moves the needle. And
Agreed.
so that would be the number one thing. What you mentioned, I'm primarily on LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to follow me on LinkedIn, just look me up, Owenlee, pretty gosh darn simple. And I post on a lot of these things 2 to 3 times a week, hopefully to bring some education. I also try and have some fun. We all need some fun in our lives, and
Yep.
just keep everybody informed.
Well, Owen, it's been such an honor to have you. I wish we could do this for 3 hours. I love this conversation. I know
I'm
there's
ready.
so
I'm ready to go.
I know there's so much more you can help us with. I would love to have you back here pretty soon. Again, once some of these things start going through, and once you're closer to that chair position, and talk more about what's happening then, if that's okay, we'd love to have you.
I would love to that. And Dale, if I could just take 30 seconds, you mentioned something earlier in this podcast that probably isn't going to mean something to 99% of the people that listen to it, but might mean something to 2% of the people. So I just want to take 45 seconds, and that is to talk about my relationship with this camp called Camp Sweeney, if I could.
Please.
For just 1 second.
Would love it.
Camp Sweeney, my youngest child, Declan, who's now 21, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 12 years old. And that changed his life. And for those of you that don't know, type 1 is very different than type 2. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease. It has nothing to do with your health, with your diet, what you eat, how much you weigh, and there is no cure. And type 1 drastically changes the life of a child. Type 1 used to be known as juvenile diabetes.
Yep.
And so they have to measure their carbs, measure their sugar intake. They have to take insulin. And there's technology that's improving that. Most diabetics don't test their blood sugar 7 times a day like they did when my son was first diagnosed. But it's a lot, and it weighs on these kids. And the most difficult thing about it is they never get a day off. And it's going to be that way for the rest of their lives. And when you're 12 or 11 or 6 or whatever, you have no concept of what that means. And you just get tired of it. And the rates of depression, the rates of self-harm, suicide attempts for type 1 diabetics are multiple times higher than they are for regular parts of the population. And this camp, Camp Sweeney, is located an hour north of Dallas. It's a summertime camp for kids with type 1. It's the largest camp and the longest running camp in the world. It's been going since 1950. 3 week sessions. We help about 800 kids every summer. And the majority of those kids cannot go to that camp, which is life-changing, without help. Costs about $5,500 to send a child to the camp for the summer, and about 65 to 70% of the kids get some form of financial aid because their parents are spending so much of their expendable income on the care of their child.
Yep.
And so it's something that changed the life of my son. It changed his outlook. It made his life and his outlook infinitely better. And if anybody out there listening to this is affected by type 1 and you want to help a child go to Camp Sweeney, or if you have a child that would be interested in going, just shoot me an email, Owen, O-W-E-N, @SMP, rate.com, and I'll put you in touch with the people, talk about it. But it's a passion of mine. I'm very fortunate to be on the board of directors of that place, and it'll be near and dear to my heart until the last day that I'm walking the earth.
That's awesome. Well, I know that Declan and I had an annual connection every year when he was raising funds for that, and what an incredible kid he is. All of your children are amazing. We certainly want to continue to be a donor for that. So send me that link. Let's put that up on the site. We'll be glad to donate to that and help sponsor a kid to get out there. And also want to get a copy of your book for sure as soon as that thing comes out. So I need to buy a bunch of those so we can give those out, because I'm excited to read it and to own it, and I might even ask you for an autograph on that one. If
well,
you don't mind.
I tell you what, if you send me an email to that same email, I might be able to send you a copy for free, or you can go to Amazon and it'll be available audibly, and it's something I'm excited about because I've been fortunate enough to learn from some very, very great teachers. And I've always been raised in an environment where giving back is very important. And I've benefited from great partnerships like the one you and I have, Dale. I just want to pass that thought process on to others.
Well, Owen, you are a dear friend. You are one of the classiest guys I've ever known in my lifetime. Your dad is unbelievable. The Lee family is just a real special family in our family's heart and mind. So thank you for being you. Thank you for the impact you're having on the industry. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with me today and chat about things that are going on. And is there any final thoughts that you have as we kind of wrap this thing up?
No, I just think we have got some really, really big challenges in our industry, and we've had some victories, but we've got some things coming, not the least of which is GSE release. So if I could just double down on everybody stay involved, follow me on LinkedIn, join the Mortgage Action Alliance, do your part, because, in Washington, there's an old adage in Washington, D.C., that you're either at the table or you're on the menu. And that will very much be true in these coming, let's just call them conversations, because I don't like the word fight. But we need to make sure we're at the table. And the only way we're at the table, the way for us to have the biggest seat at the table, is that everybody in our industry shows up.
Yep. Very good. Great wisdom there. Well, Owen, thank you again. Great to hang out with you as always. We appreciate you so much. And gang, thanks for hanging out with us. This is another wrap on Batting 1,000. Thanks for being with us as we interview the heavy hitters in the mortgage real estate industry. And Owen has brought so many valuable things for you today. We hope you enjoyed this. We're sure and confident that you did. And we'll see you on next month's session. Thanks, everybody.